Red Bull find themselves with yet another driver dilemma in both of their teams that is totally self-inflicted. Sergio Perez is about to cost them second and maybe even third in the Constructors' Championship, and over at RB, even though it's not official yet, with Ricciardo out of the team, Tsunoda not deemed good enough to be promoted, and Lawson yet to actually make his full season debut, you'd be forgiven in forgetting that this was once a team who brought in so many talented drivers into Formula 1 that at one point, half the grid consisted of Red Bull Juniors. To understand the way Red Bull has operated in the past with its drivers, you've got to remember that their method has always been quantity over quality. The pro is that they've given more opportunities to young drivers than any other team in Formula 1 history, and there is also a very clear path if you do well enough to get into a race-winning car and also maybe be able to challenge for the World Championship. The con, however, is that if you don't perform immediately, then you can be out as quickly as you were brought in, and at times drivers are often given opportunities in less than ideal circumstances and with minimal preparation, like having to make their debut mid-season. Red Bull under Helmut Marko and Christian Horner has always had this quantity over quality approach. When they see drivers with even a hint of potential, they are never afraid of throwing them into the deep end. It explains why, in the past, they've had so many different driver lineups, especially in their second team, often not being afraid of bringing in two new drivers alongside each other, and it also explains why they are so open to making brutal, cutthroat driver changes within a season, and also between their two teams as well. Although the Red Bull method has had its critics, for the most part over the last 2 decades it's worked for them, especially during their years as Toro Rosso. After Sebastian Vettel left to go to Red Bull in 2009, they gave a chance to Buemi and Alguersuari. For 2012 they then had an all-new driver lineup of Verne and Ricciardo. When Ricciardo was then promoted to Red Bull, Danny Kvyat was brought in alongside Verne for 2014. Then in 2015, when Kvyat was promoted, they once again fielded an all-new driver lineup of Verstappen and Sainz. Then when things went sideways for Kvyat at Red Bull, it was Verstappen who was promoted, and in 2017, it reached a point where 4 different drivers drove for Toro Rosso over the course of just 1 season. The point is that the Red Bull conveyor belt of quantity over quality has always meant that there's been a steady stream of young drivers just waiting to be given a chance at Red Bull, and once in every decade they are also able to find at least one World Championship caliber superstar to lead Red Bull. It's also important to remember that just because it doesn't work out for a driver with Red Bull in Formula 1 doesn't mean that their career is over. For drivers like Buemi and Verne, after being dropped, they both went on to have incredibly successful careers winning multiple championships, and as far as Buemi, he still has a relationship with Red Bull, being their current simulator driver, and in Singapore spent Friday night in Milton Keynes helping to create Max's setup for the Saturday that ultimately helped him to improve the balance of the car and helped Max to finish second in the race. They also gave a platform to multiple drivers who were then able to secure a seat off the back of being given a chance by Red Bull, and out of the 16 drivers who currently don't drive for either Red Bull or RB, 5 of them started their careers there. In the late Toro Rosso era, however, is where everything started to fall apart, and you could arguably say that it all began when Ricciardo decided to leave the team. In his vacuum, Red Bull struggled to replace him over multiple years, initially promoting Gasly at the start of 2019 before replacing him after just 12 races with then rookie Alex Albon. Essentially by the end of 2020, Red Bull were all out of ideas. Up against Max, who at that point was in his absolute prime and already as good as he was in 21 and 22 when he won championships, the handling dynamics of the car and Max's pure speed just mentally broke Gasly and Albon, who at that time weren't experienced enough to be able to cope with that level of pressure. This is what prompted Red Bull to try something out of the box by going with an already established, experienced and successful driver, not from their pool of drivers. Sergio Perez became the first non-Red Bull affiliated driver to drive for the top team since Mark Webber joined back in 2007, and after 4 different driver lineups in 4 years, they were massively motivated to try and inject stability into the team. That is actually one of the biggest reasons why I think Perez has stayed at Red Bull for longer than he's arguably deserved. Despite his consistent deficit to Max, Red Bull are choosing to be more cautious so as to not go back to that rotating driver scenario that they had with Gasly and Albon, and more than anything else, they have failed to properly develop a young driver through their second team to replace him. In recent years, Red Bull's second team in F1 has had an identity crisis. For one, the name of the team has changed 3 times in the past 8 years, from Toro Rosso, Alpha Tauri to RB, basically because they're trying to cash in on the sponsorship opportunities that naming a team can bring. They've also been indecisive on whether this team should be known as their B team, junior team, or sister team, and they've tried to make out this year that the team is now operating more as an independent with less association and influence from Red Bull. However, when push comes to shove, as we saw in Singapore, this team will still sacrifice the race of one of their drivers if there is an opportunity to help the main team, like taking the points for fastest lap away from Lando Norris to help Max. The truth is that regardless of how much meaningless PR nonsense Red Bull tries to spread about how RB is now an independent team that only focuses on itself, the bottom line is that Red Bull controls the management of RB, they can do whatever they want with the driver lineup of RB, and fundamentally, they are the owners of RB with a bigger and more important team competing against them that will always take priority. In trying to give their second team more autonomy to make it more competitive, they've also kept the driver lineups more consistent, which has had the negative side effect of producing less drivers who could be candidates for Red Bull. In the 14 years that the team was Toro Rosso, no driver ever completed 3 full seasons of the team, with most of them only being there for 1 or 2 years at most. In recent years, however, when the team has been constantly rebranded, Kvyat has completed 3 full seasons, Gasly has completed 4 full seasons, and Tsunoda by the end of this year will also have completed 4 full seasons as well. The problem is that none of the drivers that I just mentioned were ever really considered to get back into the Red Bull. Kvyat was brought back as a stopgap before they could plug a junior into the seat. Gasly was kept on because he kept the team competitive, but was also never going to be given another chance at Red Bull. And even Yuki now, who has developed into a quality midfield driver, finds himself in a situation where Red Bull don't feel he's good enough to be given a chance and be promoted to Red Bull, but they'll continue to keep him even though he doesn't have a future at the team. The Ricciardo situation, in hindsight, I think also now shows how desperate Red Bull were after Marco's Nick de Vries gamble didn't pay off. In trying to move forward, they decided to look back into their past, but as Lawson showed when he stepped into the car at the end of last year and did just as good a job as Ricciardo has done since, they should have just stuck to their philosophy of giving young drivers a chance in the first place, instead of what's happened now, which has hampered Lawson's progress as he's been on the sidelines for another year, and it's also been disrespectful to Ricciardo in the way in which they decided to drop him. In terms of Checo, I think he did a really good job in 2021 and 2022 to bring in a sense of stability into the team after a tumultuous couple of years prior to that. However, we have known for a few years now exactly what Checo is. If the car is dominant and Max can win both championships basically by himself, then the team has no problem in keeping him. However, if the competition gets closer, he is going to cost you in the Constructors' Championship because as good as he is not in the same caliber as the other drivers in race-winning teams. If it was me, the moment that Checo started to cost Red Bull in the Constructors, which we all knew was going to happen when McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes became more competitive, I would have immediately signed Carlos Sainz alongside Max for 2025, and I would have also immediately confirmed Liam Lawson at RB for 2025 as well. If there is no Red Bull seat to chase, then I don't really see a reason to keep Ricciardo, even if the job that he's been doing is totally respectable. As we have learned, however, the reason Red Bull chose not to even consider Carlos alongside Max was out of fear of reigniting the tension that had built up during their rookie season between them and their dads. Which, to me, to be honest, was just a ridiculous reason not to sign a driver as good as Carlos Sainz, given that not only was that 8 years ago now when they were much less mature, but Max was also 17 years old at the time. To me, not going for Sainz when Perez was obviously going to cost you and will continue to cost you in 2025 in the Constructors was actually a bit of a self-sabotaging contradiction, Because if you're not going to do the obvious and take the best available driver who would instantly be better than Perez and who would instantly win races alongside Max because of political reasons and previous tensions, then you've got to at least fully commit to developing drivers at your second team. At the moment, Red Bull are doing neither and are somehow confused as to why they've ended up scrambling for drivers. Moving forward, to me, Red Bull firstly needs to categorically decide what the job of their second team is. If it's to be the most competitive team it can be, then it's fine to keep drivers there for multiple seasons, but they then need to be more open to using drivers outside of their pool to go to Red Bull when they become available. Someone like a Carlos Sainz for 2025 or George Russell for 2026 should absolutely be on their radar to replace Perez. And if Max or his team has any problems with it for political reasons, then someone needs to remind him that a better driver lineup is there for the benefit of the whole team and not just to make his life easier. However, if they want to commit to using young drivers exclusively from their young driver program, then I think they need to bring back that cutthroat Toro Rosso mentality and they need to start giving more young drivers a chance at RB. For 25, bring in Liam Lawson. For 26, look at bringing in Isaac Hadjar, Arvid Lindblad, or maybe even both of them at the same time, at the expense of Lawson. People might say that it's too risky or that you need more continuity, but what have we learned seeing the likes of Lawson and Colapinto be given an opportunity in less than ideal circumstances? Lawson and Colapinto were never really on the radar to be in Formula 1 under normal circumstances because their junior careers were never the absolute best. The last time that Liam Lawson won a championship in single-seaters was back in 2017. The last time Franco Colapinto won a championship was back in 2019. And yet both of them showed enough talent to be race winners in Formula 2, both of them were parachuted in mid-season with minimal preparation, and both of them delivered when they were given a chance, surprising us with their ability to be as good as they were and as close as they were to already established drivers. As Red Bull has become more and more successful, and as they've tried to make their junior team more and more into a commercial asset instead of a race team, they have definitely become more conservative, less brave, and they've abandoned the core values that they had 10 or so years ago that got them to where they are now. There is something about the political tension inside the team between Horner, Max, Jos, Marco, and Red Bull that didn't just drive away Adrian Newey, but that's also been preventing them from making sometimes obvious and logical decisions about their drivers. And until they get their priorities straight about what they want their teams to be going forward, they are going to continue to be their own worst enemy. Well, there you have it. If you did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, then don't forget to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.